Well, hello everyone out there in the football world. We are the Head Couch Analysts, and as usual, I am your host Sanders, joined by my co-host Pardue. Pardue. So I would ask you how you're doing, but every time you're like, as good as you can get, or I'm tired, and that's usually what you say. So is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd probably say so. It's midweek. I'm grinding through it, but we're getting there. So
Gotcha.
I'm really disappointed that we don't have football this weekend, though. I think this is the Pro Bowl week now has always become the week of how you're gonna get your first taste of no football until next September, basically.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of a rough one to take.
So
I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend.
So according to those, we're going to have a volume increase right now. There it is. So if Pardue and Allie sound louder, that's why we just had a volume increase. I had my volume down accidentally. I already said her guest name. We've got Allie on the show again. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I got a lot of complaints to make right now. Not ones meant for the podcast, but yeah, the coaching world isn't treating me well right now. We are 2-1 though, so I'm pretty happy about that. It has nothing to do with me personally, just has to do with the COVID situation. Unfortunate, won't go into details. For why I will say our team is getting quarantined for a week. It wasn't our fault, and I'm not going to blast the person whose fault it was because they are a rival, and I will respect them in that way. So, yeah. I could be better, but other than that, I'm healthy, I'm good, my students are healthy, I don't have anyone quarantined yet, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Well,
I'm getting my vaccine tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, I think I have my appointment made for this weekend, so it's a Saturday or Sunday, I forget which, but eventually we'll get back to normal. Oh, by the way, for all those I think the whole the memes on Twitter, like when COVID ends, is starting to sound a lot like blah 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 blah. A lot of people are really riding the train of when COVID ends starts to sound like when Dallas wins the Super Bowl again. It's a pretty low one, people. You could think of something smarter. Like, for example, when COVID ends, it's starting to sound a lot like when Tom Brady retires. Because that man is heading to the Super Bowl again. They beat the Packers this last weekend, and he will be facing Patrick Mahomes, who beat the Bills. So that's going to be what our Super Bowl is. That's not what we're here to talk about. We will be talking about that in our Super Bowl episode next week. But just wanted to say, hey, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So if you're here for that, don't click out. Keep listening anyway, because we are going to be reviewing our mid-season awards that we gave out back in week 8 with Allie here. That's why she's here. And then we're going to laugh at how foolish we were and then say, hey, this is what the actual awards should be coming next week. So, and we won't be probably talking about the Pro Bowl at all, because the Pro Bowl has been a joke for how long now, Pardue? 5, 6 years, you'd say? Maybe longer?
I mean, way longer than that. I'm saying probably like 2010, 2009.
I was going to say, I think the last Pro Bowl I enjoyed was like 2012.
It's been a while. But it'll be interesting to see this whole Madden thing. Like, I don't know exactly how they're covering it or how they're doing it. I don't know if they're like modding it to where they'll have 11 players on each side actually controlling the player that they are. I think that would be kind of cool. But, I mean, again, it would take modding the game, and then I don't know. Or are they just kind of sub out at who's ever on the controller? I mean, it'll be interesting to see. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. So, have you heard who's supposed to be hosting this year's NFL Awards show?
No clue.
No. Huh. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it either. And I'm kind of sad that I don't see it anywhere. I guess it'd be kind of sad if they just didn't do it this year. I feel like they will. They have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
See.
I mean, yeah. But, I mean, I guess we'll find out who it is at a later date. I mean, I don't really, I haven't really watched the NFL awards either. I kind of just follow them as they go on. So
It won't have a red target or tickets to the event. It'll be a made-for TV production. Nothing else. Oh, it might be a thing with like a narrator or something like that. That would be really lame if they did that. At least have like some persons hosting a virtual one. That would still make it better and more lively than just having a narrator say, blah, 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 won MVP. His highlights were this. He did so great, blah, 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 blah. No. That's for like the NFL Top 100. Not the awards show. Okay. Well, anyways, it's kind of weird that we don't know who it is yet. That's really, really odd. Or at least I haven't seen any updates. And if anyone sees it, you should add us and tell us how dumb we are for not knowing. So, before we actually get into these awards, let's talk about who we had for the awards before. So, what we talked about before was MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and GM of the Year. We're going to be talking about all of those except for I left out GM of the Year for this one. And we're also going to add in some more. We're going to talk about Comeback Player of the Year, Most Hilarious Play of the Year, the Most Underrated Player of the Year, this player or team who saw the biggest decline of the year, and the player who started so friggin' hot and they went so cold so fast. It was like a snap of your fingers. So MVP is probably the most embarrassing one, but I think it's the most embarrassing for a lot of people because everyone and their mom was picking Russell Wilson, and so were we. And very obviously that's not it anymore. He had a bit of a chill ending to his season. I think the only game he actually kind of did, when I say did well, I mean like statistically, not just managed the game. When he did more than it looked like managed the game was probably the Seahawks-Rams game in Week 16. That's the only one that really stands out to me in the last 5 weeks. Is there any others, Pardue?
I mean, not really. That's all I can really think of.
Was the Cardinals game in the last 5 weeks? Because he did pretty good in that one.
No.
It wasn't?
No, because that was only like 2 weeks. Because the Cardinals and Seahawks played like both of their games within like 2 weeks.
Oh, it was like week 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So, yeah, that one really cooled down. So, to the MVP of this year, the actual MVP now that the full season has passed by, my pick is Aaron Rodgers. I feel like that's probably the obvious one, the one everyone's picked, the one everyone's kind of saying soon to be MVP. But I don't see how Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes beats him out, simply because when on the field, Aaron Rodgers looks like the best player on the field. And when you look like the best player on the field, you're usually the most valuable player on the field. And there's no player this year. Like last year when Lamar Jackson won it, I thought there was a case to be made for Russell Wilson. And I definitely didn't feel like there was a player who was like Russell Wilson to the Seahawks last year to this year. You can maybe argue Derrick Henry, but there's still so many other good players on that roster that I can't argue that. So I feel like it's a no-brainer for Aaron Rodgers.
I picked Aaron Rodgers too.
Yeah, I also picked Aaron Rodgers. Kind of like you said, it's a no-brainer. There isn't a lot. I mean, you could say like there's competition for it. There's guys that definitely had MVP caliber seasons, but when you compare it to what Aaron Rodgers did and the things, and just kind of how his entire like year kind of went leading up to the season, the Packers seemingly draft his replacement. The national media and fans of the NFL were saying, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers isn't the same guy anymore. He's not that good. This, that, and the other." Obviously, that's all not true because what he did this year, he probably had his best season of his career this year. So, I mean, yeah, I think undoubtedly it's got to go to Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, Allie, I know you're not used to it, but usually, I'll tell you right now, and just for the audience's sake too, going into the next hour and a half, I would just talk after Pardue.
Okay. Got it. Sorry.
So, like, Pardue just finished, so I'll let you go.
I agreed. Aaron Rodgers, no brainer. The stats say it. The games say it. It just, Walks like an MVP, talks like an MVP. That's an MVP.
By the way, since we're on the topic of Aaron Rodgers, did you, Pardue, listen to his most recent Pat McAfee Tuesday?
I've only listened to a part of it. I didn't get the chance. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to that episode yet. I listened to today's episode, but I haven't listened to Aaron Rodgers' thing yet. But I know it was kind of like they were referencing what he was saying after the game, and about how like everybody's future's on the line. But then he kind of recanted because he saw how the nation kind of reacted to it, and he kind of recanted. Like, we all know Aaron Rodgers is going to be there, but there are going to be other guys who he was referencing that aren't going to be there. So, good for him for clearing that up instead of just leaving it, as is. So he didn't want to stir shit.
I think my favorite part about it was they asked him, hey, what'd you really come onto the show for, right? Besides the fact that you're friends with AJ Hawk and whatnot, like, why'd you come on? And he's like, well, the reality is I thought to myself, man, I have to fucking talk to Pat and AJ every single Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Man, that sounds fucking awesome. I love how unfiltered he is on the show, because he's not like that in regular interviews. And then he was like, and to be quite honest with you, this is my way of being unfiltered and silencing the douchebags out there. And I'm like, hey, this guy knows. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just awesome to see a player, like, because he's on a show that is unfiltered, and if you go to the Pat McAfee show, it's unfiltered, right? And you know what to expect. And if you've never listened to the Pat McAfee show, well, you're in for a wild ride. And I just love how it lets, like, the show just lets anybody who's on there be real, right? So I really enjoyed that aspect of Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, he's not going anywhere, by the way. Anyone who's, like, speculating that, I'm just like, dumb. It's dumb. Let's not fall for this stupid narrative. So, yep, our MVP this year, all three of us, Aaron Rodgers. So congratulations to Josh Allen for winning it, since all three of us picked Aaron Rodgers. Offensive Rookie of the year. I guess we should have done this in a different order. Oh well. Offensive Rookie of the year. So Pardue picked Joe Burrow. I picked Justin Herbert. And Missy over here also picked Justin Herbert. So obviously it's not Joe Burrow, which isn't his fault, by the way. It's not his fault. He got hurt. It's not his fault. His team can't protect him. But I gotta ask you, Allie, is it still Justin Herbert, or is it another Justin?
I picked Justin Jefferson.
So we switched it to Justin Jefferson here. Tell me why.
He just had a better second half of the season, and he kind of picked it up. And also the Chargers' record doesn't really speak too well. So.
Yeah, for me personally, I think Justin Herbert's going to win it from the AP. But if it were up to me, I'd pick Justin Jefferson too. When it comes to, like, wow factor, because I think wow factor takes a heavy part in these awards.
Yeah.
It's Justin Jefferson, right? Like, Justin Jefferson just always amazed me. And I'm not saying Justin Herbert was bad. Justin Herbert was very good, but Justin Herbert never wowed me like Justin Jefferson did. And I think that's what makes me give Jefferson the benefit of the doubt. What do you got, Pardue?
Yeah, and you mentioned how you thought, or you think that Justin Herbert would still get the nod and get Offensive Rookie of the Year, and maybe you're right, just because he's the quarterback, and that's tends to be how it goes. But I would say it's Justin Jefferson as well. Whenever you're a rookie wide receiver and you're besting, stats in first years of Randy Moss, you're doing something right. He's the top 3 receiver all time, and when you're topping what he did at that age, I mean, you got to be doing something right. So yeah, I think no brainer. To be quite honest, for me, it's Justin Jefferson. I would say Justin Herbert is definitely a close second, especially as a Justin, Herbert doubter coming into his rookie year. After seeing him at Oregon, I wasn't, very impressed with what he put on tape, and I wasn't, on board the Justin Herbert train. But he proved me wrong, and he was a really great quarterback this year. And the Chargers got their guy for the next 10, 15 years if they're lucky.
You're totally right that Justin Herbert had what was I saying? For the years to come, there should be some success there, right? So we'll see what happens with the Chargers and how the head coaching changes or whatnot. And like I said, we'll cover that in a couple weeks. Defensive Rookie of the Year. So all four of us agreed on Patrick Queen. And it turns out we were really sleeping on Chase Young, who is, without a doubt, the Defensive Player of the Year. Hands down, there's really no discussion about it, I feel. Yeah? Go ahead.
I agree. That was my pick, too.
Yeah, I picked Chase Young, and referencing the Patrick Queen, us picking Patrick Queen. And honestly, I think maybe at the time it was mostly because he was getting so much playing time, especially over other rookies, especially over other rookie linebackers, because they're trying to learn new defensive systems and the speed of the game. I think this year was really difficult for defensive players to get into the swing of NFL football because of the speed and no off season and none of that. So they didn't have any of that stuff to get prepared. So I think that kind of skewed a lot of people's views into thinking Patrick Queen was a little bit better than he actually was. And it's no disrespect to Patrick Queen, he was almost a full-time starter on a great defense his rookie year, and I believe he's going to get better. But I don't think he was as good as a lot of people gave him credit for. And I know it's not the end-all be-all, but his PFF grades were relatively low, and there's definitely areas for him to improve his game. And now it's not like Chase Young had eye-popping stats. Like when you just look at the stats of Chase Young, only 5.5 sacks, only 3 forced fumbles. While that isn't gaudy by any means, you saw the impact this guy had.
Yeah, you saw
on a game-to-game basis when you saw it, when you watched him play.
Yeah, when all the people...
And I think that's what other defensive rookies, specifically here in this situation, kind of lacked, is just that almost every down impact that Chase Young made.
Yeah, I think the big thing about Chase Young was a lot of people clowned him after the playoff game for not having a sack. I'm like, okay, but did you watch how the Buccaneers line tried to adjust him? They struggled with him. He was a big reason why that Buccaneers offense did not look very good against Washington. Yes, I understand they scored 31 points, but they struggled to score 31 points, if that makes sense. And they also capitalized on offensive mistakes by the Washington football team. So, Chase Young, we were discussing this. Is it too far out to say he might be the next defensive player that you see on Sunday Night Football pictures and promotions and things like that? I'm not talking about just for Washington. I mean, how in general, when in preseason when they promote Sunday Night Football, they show the All-Stars of the NFL. Is it brash or too early to say he's going to be on those marketing tools for the next 10 years?
I mean, I wouldn't say is. I believe we talked to Bootleg Fantasy about this, and we had the same conversations about Chase Young. But no, Chase Young has a great personality, and it seems like the kind of guy that the NFL is going to want to make a poster boy going forward. That's just my opinion, and that's no knock. That's a good thing. I really like Chase Young, the guy. I think he's got a good personality. He's out there. And people kind of bashed him for calling out, Tom Brady or anything. But, I mean, he's a competitor, and he wants to play against the best. And I liked what he said, and I don't think he should have gotten any flack for it. But, yeah, I think Chase Young could be a big guy for the league going forward.
And when he said it, he wasn't, being cocky either. I felt he was just if I want to be the best, I got to beat the best, right? Mm-hmm. And, frankly, if Washington beat them, they're heading to the Super Bowl right now, right? Not Washington, but, Tampa Bay is. Mm-hmm. So if they beat Tampa Bay, then would have said something. And it would totally change the landscape of what the Super Bowl would look like on the NFC side, right? Like, would Washington have beaten who they play? Oh, they still would have played New Orleans. Yeah, so would they have beaten New Orleans? I mean, probably not, but, like, who the hell knows, really, right? So, I'm excited for Chase Young. He's definitely our Defensive Rookie of the Year. Allie, you got anything else on him?
I was just going to say that I also liked the tweet about calling out Tom Brady. I like the confidence. It says a lot about somebody when they're confident in themselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What's our next one? Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, so I'm sure there's going to be some discussion for this, but Allie, I'm going to let you go with your Offensive Player of the Year first since I've been dominating the mic.
I'm going to stick with my initial pick of Derrick Henry.
All right.
He had a phenomenal year. 2,000 rushing yards. Over 2,000 rushing yards. Insane. And he's the touchdown leader too, right? Yep. That's my pick. Even though I hate the Titans.
Hey, you know what? I don't necessarily hate the Titans. I think there was a mixture of poor sportsmanship is what we'll call it on both sides. Also, when you have someone like, for example, I said this last time Ellie was on the show, and I'm going to risk saying it again and getting added by Baltimore fans, but I still think Marcus Peters is a dick, and he looked like a huge-ass clown in that game. And I'm not talking about the fact that he, like, danced on the logo after the interception. I was all for that. Like, you know, you want to dance on our logo, we'll do it too. You know, disrespect us, we disrespect you. But he was still mouthing off to the team as he was walking to the locker room, and I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up, quit being a clown, you won, go inside. Like, if you notice, Lamar Jackson didn't say shit. Yeah, he didn't do the handshake, but he went into the locker room, gave all his teammates a high five, and when they told him, hey, you need to do an interview, he went back out, did his interview, came to the locker room. He didn't say shit, right? So even though Lamar was being petty, he wasn't being a fucking clown about it. I don't know. I don't like Marcus Peters as a person. I love that he's one of my corners, but I don't like him as a person. He's kind of a dickhead. So my point being that there's some poor sportsmanship on both sides, and Marcus Peters definitely feeds into that. And I really hope the next time they play, which is not next season, it will be the following season after that, that there isn't as much tension. Because honestly, I like Tannehill, I like A.J. Brown, I like Derrick Henry. I even like Mike Vrabel as a coach. Like, he's pretty damn good at his job. And I was shocked at how well he's turned that Titans organization around. So, I mean, I'm all for, you know, the two sides making things up, but that also requires players like, you know, Marcus Peters and Kenny Vaccaro, and Kenny Vaccaro is the safety on the Titans, right? Yeah, he was the one. He was the one who flipped off Lamar Jackson in the middle of the game. Yeah, it requires people like Kenny Vaccaro and Marcus Peters to not act like a bunch of clowns. So, I'm going to be with Allie. I think Derrick Henry's my Offensive Player of the Year too. This isn't any disrespect to Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, or Patrick Mahomes, who are also guys in it for the running. But Derrick Henry had an unprecedented season in terms of like what running backs have done lately. The last time a guy did this was CJ2K, which was also on the Titans as well. But the difference is I feel like Derrick Henry's going to last longer than CJ2K because Derrick Henry has the body to last a while. Like I said, he reminds me a lot of Marshawn Lynch, and Marshawn Lynch lasted for, what, 10 plus years, was it?
It was like, I think it was like 9 years, and then he kind of came back with like the Raiders for a brief stint. Then he retired and then came back with the Seahawks for a brief stint. That was about it.
But even when he came back for a brief stint, like, he didn't ever look bad.
He was all right.
No. It definitely wasn't Marshawn Lynch, but it's not like he was awful either, right? So, let's see. He started in 2007 and when he was in Buffalo, and then he was with the Seahawks for 5 years. So 2007 to 2015. Okay, so 8 years. 8 years. And then came back for a stint 9, 10 with Oakland, and then he played for like 2 games with Seattle. So, alrighty then. Yeah. I got Derrick Henry. What about you, Pardue? offensive player of the year.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you guys, and it's not Stephon Diggs, and it's not a quarterback. It is actually Devontae Adams.
All right.
And I know, and like Derrick Henry, he's great and all that. Don't get me wrong. He's also got a really good offensive line in front of him. He also plays a lot easier position than wide receiver, if you ask me. And it's no disrespect to Derrick Henry because you can't, talk down about, 2,000 yards. But Devontae Adams, he was just a difference maker this year. He was incredible in that offense. You could argue, honestly, I think right now he's the best wide receiver in the NFL just because there's so many different things you can do with him. He had 115 catches this year, and you think with 115 catches he'd have maybe a little bit more yards than this, but he had 1,374 total yards receiving, which, I mean, you expect that number to be a little bit gaudy. The leader last year, Michael Thomas, had 1,725, I believe, but he kind of makes up for, a couple hundred yards less with 18 receiving touchdowns, which is absolutely insane. Devontae Adams was incredible this year, and I know he had Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football too, so that certainly helps. But Devontae Adams was a beast this year, and he's kind of been underrated and slept on for the first several years of his career, and I'm kind of glad he's getting the respect he deserves now.
I'm not going to argue against it. I mean, I'd still vote Derrick Henry if we were in a meeting and had to decide this, but I mean, there's definitely merit to throwing his name into the ring. I guess that's a good way to put it, right? Alrighty, Coach of the Year. This one might be a tough one for us. Pardue, I'm gonna let you go first for Coach of the Year.
So for Coach of the Year, I'm gonna mention two honorable mentions that I had. And one is Brian Flores, and I mostly say that because of the defense he coached and how well they actually played. And the second is he went 11-5 with, I would say, not incredible quarterback play. Ryan Fitzpatrick was pretty good in the few games he started, but Tua wasn't that good. Like, let's be honest here. Like, even the Dolphins are kind of questioning whether or not Tua's the guy moving forward. And, they're amongst the Deshaun Watson rumors and everything. So even with all that, he coached an 11-5 football team, so you got to give credit where credit is due there. Coaching, he's doing a great job in Miami. Other honorable mention is Ron Rivera. And now he only won 7 games, but overall that roster isn't very well built to be a winner. But I kind of wanted to mention him just because of the situation he kind of went through personally with cancer and everything this year. All the things he had to overcome personally to coach this team and even get to a playoff berth, and then even almost, maybe not necessarily almost, but they made a game against the team that is now the representative in the NFC in the Super Bowl. They could have beaten the Buccaneers. So with that being said, I think he deserves some mention there. But my winner of Coach of the Year is Kevin Stefanski. Just because the way he's turned the culture and the franchise of the Cleveland Browns around in 1 year of being there, it's a pretty big deal if you ask me. So I think the Browns have a really bright future with Kevin Stefanski at the helm. We saw how much better Baker Mayfield was this year under him, and he's got a really and this offense is built on 2 tight end sets, and with the 2 running backs they have, man, the Browns aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So, you guys have fun dealing with that in your division.
No, it'll be fine. 3 playoff teams every year, bro. That's all it is. 3 playoffs. Allie, who's your coach of the year?
I picked Stefanski.
W.
Any reason why?
I mean, he just did what many other coaches couldn't do with that team. And they were 0-16 not that long ago, and they made it to the divisional round and stomping the Steelers in the wild card. It was just chef's kiss. So.
Spoken like a true Baltimore fan over here. So actually, Kevin Stefanski was my honorable mention. Mine was pretty basic for this year. It's also the guy who I think is going to win it too in general. My pick, and for the reasons that Kevin Stefanski, why he's an honorable mention, it's mostly what Pardue said over here. But my actual pick is Sean McDermott, because for some odd reason, the Bills were not what we thought they would be this year. So coming from last year when he made them a somewhat serious-looking playoff team, it was defense combined with some Josh Allen runs and hopefully some decent passing play. But he hadn't thrown for over 300 yards yet, and the future looked really murky with Josh Allen. Coming into this year, the script completely flipped, actually. The defense was just okay, but the offense was otherworldly in comparison to what it was. I don't mean otherworldly as in, like, to the NFL was otherworldly. No, I mean it was otherworldly in comparison to what recent Buffalo offenses were. And so this was a coach, and I'm kind of giving him Coach of the Year for the same reasons we gave John Harbaugh Coach of the Year last year. And that was because he automatically bought into flipping the script on the entirety of the NFL and said, we're a run-first team, and that's how we're going to play. Because that's how we're going to win. Because we're not going to win throwing the ball. At least throwing it 50 times. And Sean McDermott was willing to adjust from what has made Buffalo successful the last 3 years, which was defense, and hopefully the offense scores enough points. Nah, this time instead, he quickly realized mid-season, and by mid-season I mean like week 5, oh shit, we're not going to win through defense. We're going to win through offense. So game plans changed over the course of the season, which led to a 10-1 streak. Where that one loss was to the Cardinals. And to be truthful with you, they won. They had the go-ahead touchdown, right? The plan worked. Win with the offense, right? It's just DeAndre Hopkins happened, and Hail Murray. So I'm not going to let them, being an already playoff contending team, take away from the fact that this was a Super Bowl contending team, and it's unfortunate they just ran into, I admit, I didn't see it, but I must admit, what looks like an unstoppable Chiefs team. They're pretty much playing at another level at this point, and if it weren't for the Chiefs, I definitely feel like Buffalo would be the Super Bowl representative. So the ability to take an identity and just change it and make the team better and have bigger expectations than the previous year, I think is worthy of Coach of the Year. So that's why I got McDermott for Coach of the Year. Any complaints since you both picked Stefanski?
I mean, no, I don't have any complaints. Like, that was probably one of my other picks. But, I mean, I just think Stefanski, overcame something that was a little bit bigger than.
Oh, no. I think Stefanski overcame the elephant in the room, which was, can we ever have a winning season ever again? And then it was, can we make the playoffs? And then it was, can we win a game? And then it was like, oh shit, we're a touchdown away from beating the Chiefs, and then they couldn't fucking do it. It's okay. It's alright. Anything can happen, right? Wink, wink.
Boo.
Boo. I can't believe those are t-shirts being sold right now. I'm like, dude, it's a backup quarterback. Literally just buying into hype, not actual merchandise worth having. No offense to Chad Henne, but what's it going to do for you? Literally nothing. He's not going to play again. Anyway, so that's pretty much our normal stuff, right? I didn't plan on doing GM again because I feel like GM of the year is kind of decided on by week 10, right? Because the GM can't do much after week 10, right? So whatever our picks were before, I feel like that's what it should stay as. Like, both Allie and I, we were not homers when we said it. We both said Eric DeCosta because of the moves for Calais Campbell, the way he extended players that nobody thought he was going to be able to extend. Those extensions happened, and there's still some decent cap room left over, so I feel like that should stay the same. And I don't remember who your GM pick was, Pardue, even though I was listening to it this morning. I want to say you gave an honorable mention to Steve Keim.
Probably did, because he traded a second-round pick for
top
DeAndre
3 wide
Hopkins,
receiver.
but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to. We did talk about this last time, but we didn't give it an official player. We just said, it's probably between these two guys. It's Comeback Player of the Year. Allie, I think you're the biggest fan of him for all three of these, so why don't you tell us who all three of our Comeback Players of the Year is?
It's my boy, Alex Smith. Just like I predicted. Even though I did kind of give a nod to Ben Roethlisberger, too. Or I picked Ben first and then thought of Alex. I know I mentioned both.
Okay, so why is it Alex instead of Big Ben?
I mean, he showed up. He took a team that looked like, even though the division was up for grabs, I honestly didn't think. I thought they were going to keep losing and get eliminated, but they actually wound up winning their division because of him, in my opinion. And he almost died and came back from that when he wasn't supposed to. And Ben also fell off. So you go from 11-0 to 11-5. I'm gonna pick the guy that took his team to the playoffs.
Rub it in. 11-6.
11-6. Sorry, you can't add. Wait. Oh, right.
Because they lost to the Browns.
Oh, yeah. You made me think 11-5 made 15 for a second. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh no! I was counting the playoff loss.
And then I was like, wait, no, 11-5 is 16. And then I realized, as you said it.
No worries. Do you have any comments on Alex Smith, Pardue?
I mean, no, not really. She really summed it up. But I mean, I think it's really cool to see Alex Smith do that, and I don't know what his future has in store, whether or not he still wants to play football or not. I think, you proved enough, man. I think it's time for him to, hang up the cleats, enjoy your life. His leg's never going to be the same. We can still see, the curve in his leg from where he broke his leg. I think it's time for him to hang it up. What you did was incredible. Get your award and then, enjoy your kids and wife. It's over, man.
Yeah, I honestly say that I have to agree to that. I don't think, the only other player, you can really think about is Roethlisberger, I feel, right? Is anyone else even, in the conversation?
I wouldn't really... I couldn't really mention anybody else, but if I were to say someone, and it's kind of really off the wall, but given the fact that how many people were shitting on him in the off season, saying he wasn't that guy anymore, and he's fallen off, you could say Aaron Rodgers, but I mean he's gonna win MVP. So, and I mean I don't think anything beats the story that Alex Smith did or has coming into this year.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, didn't mean to do that, but I think it'd just be really douchey to not give it to Alex Smith.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's his. The award is his for the taking. All right, so this one I had to think about quite a bit. Pardue, do you have your funniest play of the year?
I do.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, if we want funniest play in history, it's probably the one the Colts tried pulling off 8 years ago. Which, by the way, if you want to know why that happened, you should listen to Pat McAfee's show because he explains it. And once you hear him explain it, you're like, oh, it was literally...
It's really not that bad.
Yeah, it's literally just a miscommunication was all it was. Right? And when you hear him say this is what was supposed to happen, you're like, oh, that's really fucking genius. It's just one miscommunication that made it look like the worst thing in the world. So, anyways, most hilarious play of the year. So, I'm not including postseason in this at all. I mean, you can if you want to, Allie. I don't care. But I'm not including postseason in this. For me, the funniest play of the year that happened was, and mine is probably a little mild in this case, but I think I picked this play mostly because I just couldn't believe this player let it happen, was Patrick Mahomes' 30-yard sack. I don't know why, but when I first saw that happen, I was stunned and in disbelief. I wasn't screaming at the TV what the fuck are you doing? I just sat there and I'm like, this man really took a 30-yard sack. This man, he really ran so far backwards that he decided it was more important to try and outrun two big linemen than throw the football away. This guy who has a cannon of an arm was 2 years ago MVP, Super Bowl MVP, is in the running for the MVP this year, and his decision is, nah, let me run away from these guys and take a 30-yard sack. So, I think it's hilarious. It was the longest sack of the season. When you watch the play, it makes no sense as to why it happened. I mean, if you do like a film analysis, you're like, oh, Patrick Mahomes stepped back too far, and the defensive tackles decided to guard the outside, so Mahomes can't escape from it. It makes a lot of sense, like film-wise, but just when it happened, it sticks out in my head. So, to me, that was one of the funniest plays of the year. I'm probably always going to remember that now. If ever a troll Chiefs fans comes around, I'll probably come around and say at least my quarterback doesn't like to take 30-yard sacks, which is really not that much of a slander against Mahomes considering how great he is. But hey, when someone's trolling you, you got to troll back, right? So, that's my funniest play of the year, and it's the one that sticks in my head. Pardue, what do you got?
So mine's going all the way back to week 1. Do you have any idea what that might be?
Week 1. Man, what happened okay, so let's see. Jaguars upset the Colts.
I can't even remember that.
I'm thinking back to week 1. I don't remember anything that stupid that happened week 1.
Oh, you don't remember Bears-Lions, huh?
No.
Bro, you don't remember what happened at the very end of the Bears-Lions
game? Oh,
come
on! You're really going to put him on blast like that?
Wait, what happened? I can't remember.
DeAndre Swift, the rookie, in his first career NFL game, runs the wheel route, wide ass open in the end zone, nobody within 5 yards of him, and the worst drop basically as time expires to lose the game. That is my most hilarious play of the year because I was dying.
That's more ouch than haha.
And he was on my bench and got cut for it. So
man,
and then I really could have used him at the end of the season. But
you really put him down like that, didn't you?
Sorry, I mean, drop wide open touchdowns.
Oh man, you really said fuck DeAndre Swift. Oh no. Well, mostly, cause, I was like, what happened? And when you said Bears-Lions, I'm like, nothing funny happened in it. And then I realized, oh, he's talking about the drop pass. I felt so bad for him. Like, the game was there for the taking. And you know why Pardue's salty about that? Because the Cardinals would be in the playoffs if it weren't for that play.
I mean, I didn't think of it that way. I was more salty because
I'm not wrong.
That was the 1 week I started him in fantasy.
But I mean, you would have been in the playoffs. Just saying.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is. So I guess
bro, we could have got Saints Cardinals on Nickelodeon.
Well, instead we got Mitchell Trubisky winning the MVP.
Oh my god, I felt so bad for Nate Burleson trying to justify it. Oh, Jesus. Anyways, Allie, do you got one? If you don't, it's fine. But do you got one?
I do. So I did pick a postseason one, but I think I picked it for a really good reason.
Sure, why not? Recency bias is a cool thing.
You follow me on Twitter.
I do.
The whole game, I was
You're
like...
an overreactor, just so you know.
Yes. Marcus Peters is due for an interception. So finally, when I was feeling desperate, when it looked like we were going to lose, I just went onto Twitter. I was thinking in my car, because I was driving to my parents near the end of the game, and I was like, manifestation, it's real.
Oh yeah,
so
you were like Miami Dolphins Tannehill, gonna throw a pick.
Yeah, I said I am now summoning bad Miami Tannehill to throw a pick to Marcus at 3:39, and moments later, everyone was like, "Whoa, what was that?" And it was kind of awesome, and it was hilarious because that's exactly what I wanted to happen, clearly. So
So a big funny moment for people who are on Twitter and follow you. They know. I remember seeing that when you posted it. You were like, "Now summoning Miami Dolphins Tannehill. Please throw a pick." And then I think it was literally 2 plays later that the pick happened.
Yeah.
Big moment of irony there.
I also tagged Ryan Tannehill and I said, I knew you had it in you. I'm not sure if he saw it or blocked me, but that would be hilarious.
Poor guy. All right.
He had it in you.
All right. Most underrated player of the year. I'm going to start with you on this one, Pardue.
So most underrated player of the year. Let me look at my sheet real quick because I think I had an honorable mention for this one. I did. So the very first one I wanted to mention was Jeremy Chin. And I don't know if I mentioned this when we were talking about Defensive Rookie of the Year. But if I were to not pick Chase Young, that's who I'd be picking. And now, I don't know if you guys have heard of Jeremy Chin or not, but he basically came into the league and did exactly what Isaiah Simmons was supposed to be doing, but started doing it week 1. He was playing safety. He was playing linebacker. He was playing slot corner.
Doesn't he play for the Panthers, if I remember?
Yes, he does play for the Panthers. He is the ultimate defensive hybrid that every defense is looking for. He's like a Tyrann Mathieu. He's like a Budda Baker. He's like what Isaiah Simmons is supposed to be. He's the do-it-all defensive guy. And he finished his rookie year, let me see here, with 95 tackles, 5 passes defense, and 2 fumble recoveries. And now those aren't super gaudy numbers, but his PFF grade was pretty good. I accidentally didn't write it down, but I think it was about 65, which for a rookie, that's like good. That's labeled as good. So he really popped off when, out of the little bit of tape that I've seen from him. He's a guy I'm really going to keep my eye on because I think he's going to be a really good defensive player moving forward. But another player I wanted to mention was DJ Chark. And now he only had 53 catches this year, only 706 yards and 5 touchdowns. But he mostly had Mike Glennon, something Lutton and, Gardner Minshew throwing him the football this year. DJ Chark is a pretty good receiver. He could be a number 1, high-end number 2 receiver on somebody's team. That's how high I think of DJ Chark. And he's also got a guy named Laviska Shenault who basically had the exact same numbers as a rookie in that room, and then also James Robinson. So he's got some other mouths to feed on that Jaguars offense. There's actually a couple of decent pieces on this Jaguars offense to include DJ Chark. He's a really good receiver that I want to keep my eye on moving forward as well, especially depending on how this quarterback situation works out in the Jaguars after this, during this offseason. He could have a really good quarterback throwing him the football next year, him and Laviska Shenault. So I'd keep an eye on those 2 guys if you're looking for someone for fantasy who's going to be low-key.
All right, I like it. I'm going to go next here. So I actually have 3 players I want to talk about, and I put them into categories, okay? Because I couldn't decide between them. And I felt like they could all be underrated players. I was like, you know what? They're all their own categories. So here's what I got. I got biggest name player that should get more attention than they deserve. And that's A.J. Brown.
Oh, yeah.
A.J. Brown's not talked about enough for how monstrous he is. And I know he's your guy. But, A.J. Brown is incredible. He's easily a top 10 receiver. He does way more
top
for the
5.
Titans offense than you think. I said easily top 10. If you want to, it'd be harder to argue top 5. You can. I'm not saying you can't, but that's why I said easily top 10. There's no respect on A.J. Brown's name right now. And by the way, I think the reason you couldn't say top 5 because you could say Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. I'd put Justin Jefferson over him.
I wouldn't.
From this year.
I wouldn't.
I would. And then
A.J. Brown had 2 surgically repaired knees.
I know what he played through. I know. These guys are amazing. They're incredible at what they do. I could also say
he's Derrick Henry playing receiver.
I could also say Cole Beasley played through a broken fibula.
I don't fucking care about Cole Beasley.
You don't care about an all-pro receiver who wasn't all-pro? All right.
Okay, I'm kidding. I like Cole Beasley, but he ain't better than A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, my fucking guy. If people can put DK Metcalf in their top 5, I'm putting A.J. Brown in my top 5.
So I would say Metcalf and Brown belong in the top 10 and neither in the top 5. That's me. I would take Allen Robinson over both of them too.
Nah.
I would put Allen Robinson at 5.
Continue.
That's how I would look at that. But Stephon Diggs too, man, A.J. Brown is top 10, but I wouldn't argue top 5. There's quite a few players I could name over them. But so A.J. Brown is my, big name guy that's not talked about enough, I feel, and deserves more love. And then I had old big name guy that no one talks about anymore, mostly because his team's not winning, but he's still a fantastic at what he does. And that is Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks was one of the best players at his position this year. He was the reason that the Chicago Bears defense was so good this year. Khalil Mack is part of that, but when Akeem Hicks was in the lineup, man, he deserves way more credit than what he gets. The big name from the Bears defense is Khalil Mack, but Akeem Hicks is right up there, and he just doesn't get any of the credit he deserves. I feel like the only time you ever hear about him is when you hear about I don't notice any other casters doing this, but Chris Collinsworth likes to point out more underrated players. Sometimes he oversells them, which I kind of have a problem with. You shouldn't oversell players. But, he usually points out guys like this, and I think that was the only time I ever heard Akeem Hicks' names was when Chris Collinsworth called on him. I had a side B to this pick, and that was Kendall Fuller for mostly the same reasons. Washington was a losing team, and Chase Young is on the team, so you're not going to talk about the corners, but Kendall Fuller is probably the reason that secondary was much better than what people thought. So Akeem Hicks and Kendall Fuller in that category of old big name that no one really talks about anymore. And then for my actual underrated one that no one's ever heard about, you guys probably won't even recognize the name, and tell me if you do, Jesse Bates III. No?
I know I've heard the name.
Do you recognize the name, Allie?
No.
No, okay. So Jesse Bates III, you probably should actually. So Jesse Bates III is a safety for the Bengals. And despite being on a really, really bad team, he was arguably the best player in the secondary. And I wanted to look this guy up because he was a guy who stood out to me whenever I did watch Cincinnati. And I looked up his stats just to be sure. He had one of the lowest passer ratings allowed for a safety in the league. And this is a guy who's in his third year as a full-time starter. He's definitely a guy that they're building around in the secondary. And a guy where in free agency, you know how Pardue sometimes there's just random names in free agency? You're like, I didn't know that was a guy, but apparently he's getting paid big money. That's going to be Jesse Bates next year. Not this coming year, next year. In 2022, he's going to be that name. Because, let's face it, the Bengals are going to suck again next year. No offense. They've got a couple of years to go. They're going to suck again next year. And Jesse Bates is going to play well. And he's going to get underpaid for how good he is. Because he's not getting the attention he deserves because he's on a bad team. So, yeah, Jesse Bates III, I guess if I had to pick between one player, Jesse Bates III probably wins this. Because my real definition of underrated is someone that doesn't get mentioned at all. Akeem Hicks occasionally gets mentioned. A.J. Brown definitely gets mentioned when it comes to their teams. And so does Kendall Fuller. But Jesse Bates III, broadcasters won't even talk about him in the middle of a Bengals game. He doesn't get his mentions. He just works, plays really well, great under the radar player. So that's my underrated player of the year. You got anyone, Allie?
I'm not trying to sound biased.
I knew
so
she was
when
going to pick a Ravens player. Go on.
No. It's just in my head when I think of overrated and underrated. With overrated, obviously, it's a household name. You can ask the most casual person who Tom Brady is, and they'll know who they are. So for this Ravens player, I'm just saying, yes, I understand the Ravens are known as a rushing offense, but I feel when you ask the average person, do you know this player? They aren't going to know the name.
If you say
I
the
just
one
feel like
person
they
I'm
aren't
thinking
talked about
about, I'll
much.
let it go.
Is it Gus Edwards? Because that's who I was going to say.
No, it's actually not.
Sorry.
So anyways,
I feel like a lot of Ravens fans, I feel like a lot of Ravens fans, like, talk about him and hype him up and, like, all that stuff. So, like, I understand that that's, like, not really underrated from us, but I just feel like around the league, he's not really as respected, and I just think he's
I
very
like
good.
Gus Edwards.
I know you want Gus Edwards. I know.
I know. I've been talking about Gus Edwards for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, but is he a
I'm
name
just
that
saying from
comes
what I've
up?
seen,
No,
like,
it
with
was
other
Mark
fan
Ingram.
bases.
It was Mark Ingram, and then it was J.K. Dobbins. It's never Gus Edwards, right? I see where you're coming from.
That's what I mean.
You know who I thought you were gonna pick when you said offense?
Yeah.
I was immediately like Patrick Ricard.
I love him,
My
though.
boy goated.
I love Patrick
I-
Ricard, man.
You know what? I could also make an argument for that, too.
Because he doesn't have the stats or the numbers, but he plays both defense and offense. He blocks, he catches passes, and he runs. And we have him on a screaming steal of a deal. Who needs Kyle Juszczyk?
Fullback lives matter.
Fullback lives matter. Yes, they do. Oh, okay. You know what? I can't say I love it, but what is it?
Like, it makes sense to some degree.
It does. Alrighty.
I just feel like it should be talked about more in general, like, as a whole, on Twitter, in person.
Alrighty. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Alright, so, Allie, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to have you go first for the player who started the hottest and then went cold. Just so you know. We'll get to that one last. For our second to last, quote-unquote, award here, that's more on the funsy side than the real side. Let's look at the biggest decline of the year. So this could be a player, a coach, a team, whatever it may be. I'm really interested, Pardue, in yours, because you said it was not what I expected. So I want to hear what you got. You've got the floor, my man.
I mean, this is biased, but it's not necessarily biased. But I mean, it's the Cardinals, right? So coming into this season, there was so much hype. The Cardinals were going to be the NFC and the NFL's darling this year. They were going to be, the worst to first team.
Kyler Murray was a dark horse MVP.
Kyler Murray was a dark horse MVP. They just got the best wide receiver in the NFL for a second-round pick and a bag of chips.
The defense was going to continue its not dominance, continue its improvement, which, to be fair, it did.
Right. And so it had all this momentum. And then they come out week 1 and beat the defending NFC champs, and they start 2-0 with a win following it up against the Washington football team, who at the time, everybody was like, okay, this Washington football team might not be that bad. They just beat the Eagles. Turns out that isn't much of an accomplishment this year. But so they started 2-0, then dropped 2, and then we're 2-2, and everybody was like, all right, so they're just going to be an average team. Then went on an absolute tear, beat the Seahawks, beat the Cowboys, and then we're sitting at 6-3 in first place in the NFC West. And then it all kind of fell apart. And they ended up finishing 8-8. They went 2-5 in their last 7 games. And now a lot of question marks are surrounding this team. There's a lot of the roster itself is going to look very, very different next year. And now I think this is the year where not only is it make or break for Steve Keim, the GM of the Cardinals, who's kind of been on the hot seat for several years now. Cliff Kingsbury is also going to be on the hot seat. Like this is it now. Like you took steps this last year, and you got this team where it needed to be at 6-3, and then it fell apart. What happened? Your offense, compared from 2019 to this year, took a step back in the second half of the season. There's so many things that kind of go into the factor of the Cardinals' decline down the stretch. Kyler Murray's injury, bad coaching, poor play calls, the lack of a running game. I remember very early on in the season when the Cardinals were averaging 150 to 200 rush yards a game, I said this team's going to finish as a top 30 rushing team. I think they finished top 5. We were like 6th or 7th or something like that. So still up there. But that completely disappeared in the second half of the season. The running game disappeared. Kyler Murray was running less. Kenyon Drake just wasn't good or consistent. So many things kind of compiled into the decline of the Cardinals this year, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do to address their many deficiencies this offseason, because they got a lot of holes and not a lot of cap, and there's a lot of players that are kind of on the bubble that might be getting released through just to free up cap space. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Cardinals do this offseason, but it's definitely a make or break going into next season with the current regime.
I want to let you know, when it comes to total yardage, you guys... Wait, what? I did it by rush yards. Why isn't it... Okay, you guys finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. You finished 7th in rushing. Behind the Saints, okay, shocker. Vikings, shocker. Patriots, shocker. Browns, Titans, Ravens. Yeah, okay. Those are plenty of... You're definitely up there. And the Packers are behind you. And they also have Aaron Jones, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know who does shock me who's in the top 10? The Eagles.
It's because they couldn't throw.
Yeah, but... Should you be top 10 rushing? I don't know. I don't feel like they were too bad.
I mean, Miles Sanders isn't bad.
No, but I'm still surprised by that. I feel like that type of offensive production would lead to more wins.
Not when you don't have a quarterback.
Oof. My guy, you didn't have to go that hard.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness. Okay, biggest decline of the year. Allie, do you have one?
Mine's really funny, in my opinion. And you said of the year, not of the season, of the year. So we're going to rewind back to May. And I'm going to give it to my dog, Earl Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck you. Clown. Joker better.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I didn't even think about that. So you gave it to a player. I don't... going from a guy who was a top safety, even still last year.
And no one wants to even touch him or sign him. That's sad.
Yeah.
To be fair,
I
feel like safety's become less and less of an important position. I mean, obviously, it's great to have an elite guy there, but I feel like it's a lot like running back. You can get similar production out of someone else. So,
safety can still change the game, though. As I said, you would know.
No, it definitely can. Like the elite, that's the thing about running backs and safeties. Like the elite of the elite, they're difference makers. But for the vast majority of those guys, you can pretty much plug and play anybody. Like the Cardinals let Tyrann Mathieu, people still call him the best safety in the league, walk. A guy who does it all, does everything. And then, I mean, you can say now that Budda Baker is starting to become the elite of the elite. But they've replaced him with Budda Baker and almost nothing changed.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the safety position isn't like the end all be all, and especially for a guy of like his age, I believe he's in his 30s. Like
I think he's 30.
You need speed you need speed at the safety position, and Earl Thomas ain't all that. So, but no, that is funny though. Like Earl Thomas is a bitch. So
yeah,
yes, he is.
You're right though. But I think he partially did it to himself, right? Through being a cancer to a locker room that is considered one of the best locker rooms in the NFL, right? Like the brotherhood that's considered in that locker room, the whole. I've said it before on the show, and I don't want to overstate it, but the whole like play like a Raven mentality is kind of like the do your job mentality in New England, right? Like some mottos are just famous from the team because players come from those organizations and say, yeah, that is a total buy-in. Like in New England, you do it the Patriot way, right? You do your job. They even changed the street from whatever street it used to be called to Patriot Way because you do it the Patriot way. And Harbaugh has helped provide and continue the legacy of you play like a Raven. And players who leave always say, yeah, Go to Baltimore. If you want a great team and a great organization, you go to Baltimore. You know, Tony Jefferson has had nothing but nice things to say after we've cut him. Any player who's ever left our organization has said, if you want to play for a brotherhood and a tough team, you go to Baltimore, right? They have tough standards. You play like a Raven. And I love that they have that mentality. And he didn't fit that. Earl Thomas didn't fit that. So when you have like such a great organization, brotherhood, saying, Harbaugh, you need to cut this guy. Because it was team leaders who said it, that they need to be cut. It wasn't a GM. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a GM decision. But it wasn't like the coach and GM said we should cut him. The players went to them and said, you need to get rid of this guy. We don't want him. We'll be fine without him. And it wasn't just that, though. It was also the whole planes, trains specifically, and automobiles incident that happened in April. So, yeah, he really shot himself in the foot, if you ask me. Yep. I think it's hilarious, though. So mine for decline of the year is actually the entirety of the Houston Texans. Through and through, roster, coaching, front office, all of it. Oh my goodness! Like okay? So I'm kind of cheating because mine starts in 2019, right? But it's December 19th of 2019, so it's pretty close to 2020 when they fire their GM, right? This Jack Easterby guy becomes head of operations January 21st. By the way, this Easterby guy is a priest. not even a priest. They called him a character coach in New England, but he was not chaparral. Chaplain. He was the chaplain at Patriots, and he's a chaplain for the Texans and a character coach, and suddenly he's interim of football operator. It makes no sense. If you want, I encourage everyone listening right now, go read the Sports Insider story on this. It was published on December 17th of last month. So before all this crazy stuff went down that you keep hearing about, someone already wrote about it. It's nuts how Easterby came into power at the Texans. But I'm not going to get into that. I'll let you read that sports article. I'll let that sports article have its credit due. I think it's called How Easterby Rose to Power. Sports Insider. I'm looking it up right now so I can confirm on that. It's called Jack Easterby's Rise to Power and Mismanagement of Houston. Go read it. Incredible read. It's a bit of a long read, about 7 to 8 pages, but man, it's well worth your time if you're interested in anything football related. So from the downfall of the front office, right, to him immediately coming in, this Easterby guy, and demanding that DeAndre Hopkins get traded because he's not a character guy. Well, let's face it, DeAndre Hopkins is not the nicest guy in the world, okay? But there's kind of times in any place, not just sports, but any place in the world where if they don't do anything too bad, right, it's just moderately disruptive, you kind of brush it under the carpet, right? Because you don't care because they're doing their job so well. That's DeAndre Hopkins. Would you agree, Pardue?
I don't care what DeAndre Hopkins does. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just do your job, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's not like he's a dick. It's just he's very, very smug because he knows how good he is. So he just kind of just doesn't take shit. Yeah,
and then, they didn't like how Easterby, claimed how he didn't like how he had, like, I think, what does he have, 6 baby mamas?
Yeah, something like that.
Something ridiculous.
I don't think that many, but like a couple at least. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, or maybe it was 4. I forget. But either way, and it was just a Christian guy being a Christian who wanted to get rid of an unchristian like person, according to him, a man of God claiming this, right? And what does that do? That totally fucks over your offense. It fucks over Bill O'Brien, who's sitting here like, well, what am I going to work with, right? David Johnson, okay, and then that leads to Bill O'Brien starting 0-4, and I'm guessing at this point, after knowing what I know, that Easterby was in the owner's ear the all time, and after going 0-4, Easterby didn't want to take the blame and said, "Fire Bill O'Brien. His offense sucks." Well, your offense sucks with or without him, and now he's gonna be the offensive coordinator for Alabama. That's literally one of the best possible jobs Bill O'Brien could have gotten. Right? You're really telling me Bill O'Brien was the problem? Yeah, okay. He developed Deshaun Watson. He's the reason they've been successful the last 5 years. I still maintain Bill O'Brien was not the whole problem. He might have been part of the problem, but I maintain he wasn't the problem. And then you go into it to J.J. Watt voicing his frustrations middle of the season, and then all culminated week 16 when he had that long rant about saying if you don't want to be here, then you shouldn't be here. All up to now to where it seems like Deshaun Watson doesn't even want to be there. I feel really bad for Houston as a city because they also lost James Harden as well. Like, it just seems like nobody wants to play for Houston sports. And the one time this city gets its claim to fame, we find out they're a bunch of fucking cheaters. Oh, the Houston Astros. And I understand this is going out of this year now. This is over the course of the year. But, man, it was 2020 was a rough year. Not only for the Houston Texans, but just the city of Houston overall. Bad. Just bad. Ugh. Yeah, biggest decline of the year is definitely the Houston Texans through and through. From the roster to the coaching all the way to the front office. Sorry, I went on a long rant on that one, but the Houston Texans is a fascinating case to me, and I wish I could just study it. But unfortunately, I have a job and coaching and other things I got to do. But it's just a fascinating study to me. The way the Texans are right now is just, it's mind-boggling how they fell so fast. They went from being up 24-0 against the Chiefs, right? You remember that? Up 24-0 against the Chiefs, and it's been downhill ever since. That was the last good moment they had. They were up 24-0.
Yeah, you can honestly argue they should have been in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, they were up 24-0 against the Chiefs, and that's the last good thing you can say about them. Damn.
Life comes at you fast.
It does come at you fast.
The NFL, we all know what it stands for, man.
Yeah, not for long.
Not for long.
So we got the Cardinals, Earl Thomas, and the Texans. I'm down for that. All right, so last one here. Allie, we're having you go first on this. Who was the player or team or whichever? They started the hottest of the season, and then they ended up being just cold steak.
I really hate saying this because I feel really dumb because I picked him for MVP, but I picked Russell Wilson.
I think it's pretty obvious why, but go ahead and tell us why.
I mean, his level of play really declined a lot. And there were more interceptions. A lot.
Yeah, he threw a weird amount of interceptions this year, I feel. He went from playing perfect to, like, average. He went from elite to average.
I might be wrong. Okay, so hold on. Wait. Okay, yeah, that's this year. There was one game where he had 3. That was the Cards game, I think, actually.
Mm-hmm.
6, 8, 10, 14? 14?
If you count the playoffs, yeah, I think it was 14 total. Yeah.
And definitely not nearly as many yards.
It's kind of staggering. Like, when you look at, like, the beginning of the season, he was throwing, like, 250 plus every single game. And then just randomly, after, I believe it was, I want to say it was after the Seattle-Buffalo game. Just after that, he just dropped off the face of the earth. He had one good game against the Jets, I think, after that, but then it just...
So, the Rams game, he went down. The Giants, he had 263, and then after that, nothing above 225.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's kind of odd how those are some Lamar Jackson numbers right there, just without the rushing yards. Oh, so... Yeah, it's kind of odd. He went from being like the darling of the NFL, let Russ cook, to absolutely nothing.
Don't let Russ cook.
Yeah, don't let Russ cook.
It's gonna be garbage.
Oh boy.
Food poisoning.
Yeah, or to make a pun out of our title, the food's gonna be cold. Ha, ha. Sorry, that was bad. Pardue, please rescue me.
Boo.
Boo.
Damn it. What do you got? What do you got, Pardue?
So it kind of goes back to last year a little bit, but I mean, it happened this year. But the biggest hot to cold, biggest decline for an individual, how can you really not argue anybody but Michael Thomas?
I was going to pick him, but I decided not to.
So Michael Thomas, just last year, had 149 catches. 149, absolutely insane number. Coupled with 1,725 yards, insane, 9 touchdowns. And then, you know, what happened. They got eliminated in the playoffs, and then he started talking trash about the team that sat him down in the playoffs. He kind of just needs to know when to shut his mouth. And then this year he comes back early on in the season, gets in a fist fight with his teammates. That news breaks. So he's fighting with teammates. He's a cancer in the locker room. Then was battling through injury all year. And then when he was playing and when he was healthy, only was able to accumulate 40 receptions for 438 yards and 0 touchdowns. That's what Michael Thomas did this year. And when he was at his very healthiest
didn't he
in
have
the
one
playoffs.
Touchdown? Didn't he have one?
No,
No, because we said Slant Boy was back. Remember?
Sanders. I looked it up today. He did not score a single touchdown this year.
Maybe it was the regular season.
You.
Maybe it was the Bears game I'm thinking about then.
Correct. He did not score, though.
I'm pretty sure he scored in the Saints-Bears game. I'm pretty sure.
He didn't. How much do you want to bet?
We literally said Slant Boy is back. I remember this.
Okay, I'm gonna screenshot you his stats, and I'll send it to you in a minute. But he didn't score a touchdown this year. Putting that out there right now. And then in addition to that...
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he had 5 receptions, 73 yards, 1 touchdown in that Saints-Bears game. It was in the playoffs. You're probably looking at regular season.
Dude, he didn't have a single catch in the playoffs.
Bro, he had 5 receptions against the Bears. This is the wild card round, bro.
Oh, we are looking at the wild card round. I'm thinking of the Tampa Bay game. He didn't have a single catch in the Tampa Bay game.
We went 0-0 in Tampa Bay, yeah.
Okay, so he did score 1 touchdown this year.
Yes.
But not in the regular season.
Nope.
I'm talking regular season stats. So, in a way, we're both right. So, anyway, he wasn't good this year. He wasn't the same guy. He accumulated more than half of those yards from the regular season in 2 games. So, we all kind of talk about where a lot of people are starting to talk about, you know, what's next for the Saints, because they're about to start selling off all their players and everything. Michael Thomas is one of the guys that, you know, keep your eye out for it. He's probably going to be on a new team next year because the production isn't there. He bitches and moans all the time. He just had to private his Twitter account because he got bullied too hard. So I think that you can't really argue anybody, not only in terms of production on the field, but just a fall from grace. I don't think you can argue anybody else for Michael Thomas over the last year or so.
You know what? Honestly, I think that's totally fair. Like, for Michael Thomas, I think his biggest issue, but besides health this year, is he doesn't know when to shut up. Mm-hmm. He has no filter, and it's not in a good way. He has no filter in a bad way. He can't read the room. He can't hide his emotions when he needs to. It's just bad. I've never heard you talk about Michael Thomas, Allie. Do you actually have an opinion on him?
I was a really big Michael Thomas fan last year when I did fantasy because I had him. And then I was very disappointed in him in the off season. Like, I understood it at first, and I sided with him at first being that upset, but as it kept dragging on, I was like, all right, at some point you gotta get over it. And, yeah, I don't care for him as much anymore. It sucks.
Yeah. Alrighty, so mine. Started hot, ended really cold. I gotta go with Dak Prescott because no, I'm joking. That would be so mean. That would be awful if I actually went with Dak Prescott.
Hold my crutches.
Yeah, exactly. No, I do actually have to take the bait and go with an NFC East quarterback, and it's Carson Wentz for me. It has come to
yes.
It has come to a point where Pardue and I, at one point this season, were Carson Wentz apologists, and I think he and I have left that train now.
Good. You should have left it a while ago.
But there was a point where Pardue and I were Carson Wentz apologists because we were like, well, this is injured, this, that, this, and that, this, and that, this, and that, and that, blah, 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 to like week 12. Finally, we were like, shit, he's just not good. He's bad this year. It took us a while. To be fair, he had nobody. But Carson Wentz's biggest issue was expounded upon by the fact that when he's not surrounded by talent, he does the same thing he did in college. And he also did it his MVP season too. The difference is he had talent to make up for it. Or talent to work with it. Carson Wentz is still playing like his MVP season, believe it or not. The difference is he's not smart about it. So what do I mean by this? So there was a throw specifically, and I don't remember against what team it was. I want to say it was the Jets, but don't quote me on that. He makes a throw where he scrambles to the right, and he makes this incredible throw across the body of his chest, and it should be a touchdown. But because he doesn't see the safety closing in on the wide receiver, the safety closes in at the very last second, intercepts the ball in the end zone, and it's a touchback. And if he would have released it sooner, it actually would have been a touchdown. But Carson Wentz, on 2nd and 4, is when this play was, is going for the hero play. Why? Why are you going for the hero play? And he did this a ton this year, which is why he looked so bad this year. He often... What happened was he had so many injuries, and he's a guy who felt like all the pressure was on him. I have to make a play. And so you take risks when you're like that. I will admit, I had my first actual real taste of that just last Friday with my varsity kids. We were down 9 points against, you guys, nobody will know who this is unless you're from Arizona, against a school called Brophy, who's considered the best of the best. And we started taking gambles. We started playing hero ball because if we didn't, we were going to lose the game anyway. And it ended up giving us a few favors, and we won the game through it. But I understand where that mentality comes from, because when you're so far behind in something, whether it's talent on the field, which in this case was the Eagles' cases, or you're so behind in the score, when you're the best player, you got to tell yourself, I need to make a play. I need to make a play. I got to do this. I got to do that. And if you let that get into your head, it turns into bad habits, and then bad habits turn into consistent play. And by consistent play, I mean you are consistently making bad plays, which Carson Wentz did this year. And it led from him being a pretty good quarterback to dreadful. And that play I was talking about where he rolls out to the right and he throws it, you want to know what the worst part about that play was? Not only if he'd thrown it half a second earlier, it would have been a touchdown, he would have nailed it, it would have been a great play. He had a wide open receiver 6 yards in front of him. Take the check down, get the first down. And he didn't take it. He went for the hero ball play. So I don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. I honestly, a piece of me, the apologist in me, still believes there's a good player in him. But I don't think he should be on the Eagles anymore. I think he's broken as an Eagles player, and another franchise needs to work with him. Whether it's Josh McDaniels in New England or Frank Reich with Indianapolis, somebody's got to work with him. It can't be Philadelphia. I understand Doug Peterson's no longer there, but I don't think he can be Philadelphia anymore. The fan base is too toxic for him. The locker room probably doesn't trust him anymore. You know, Jalen Hurts is always going to be behind his back. I think he needs to go to a situation where they say, hey, you're the guy for at least this year. Show us what you got. And he can get that in Indianapolis or New England. He's not going to get that in Philadelphia. So that's my biggest declining player of the year. It's absolutely frustrating to watch him play now. And you look at him and you're like, wow, this was a guy who just 2 years ago was lighting the NFL on fire. What happened? And we know what happened, right? He likes to play hero ball, but he doesn't have the players to make up for, like, those, 1 foot mistakes. Like, literally, like I said, if you threw it a half second earlier, it's a perfect play. And I'm sure maybe an elite receiver adjusts to that and makes the catch anyway. But regardless, yeah. Carson Wentz is my biggest decline. Not biggest decline. Hottest to cold. And it wasn't even like he was that hot. It's just he was so cold from expectations that were laid for him this year. That's kind of how I look at it.
All right.
Yay, nay, no, nothing.
I feel like you pretty much hit it. I think, like you said, we tried to, atone and, make excuses for Carson Wentz as much as we could. But he's just not that guy. I think it's very obvious that at least the fans, for the most part, in Philadelphia are ready to move on. A lot of them, I think, wrongfully so, wanted to stick with Nick Foles. But I just think ever since he tore his ACL, he's never been quite the same guy. And I think it would do him good to get out of there.
I would say I really liked him last year because he did some miracle work last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not a single receiver had over 500 yards, and he still threw for, almost 4,000, and took his team to the playoffs. Like, he did some good work. So, hey, Allie, I gotta ask, are you one of those Carson Wentz haters? Like, I don't really care. Just you can have your moment.
What was the question? You kind of cut out for a second.
I said, are you one of those Carson Wentz haters?
I am.
May I ask why?
I think Nick Foles got fucked. So I hated Carson Wentz for it since.
Okay, but you look at Nick Foles after, and has Nick Foles done anything?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because now they both suck.
I mean, even I was on the Nick Foles train, but I think they still made the right decision.
Yeah, you and Ricky trying to convince me otherwise 2 years ago. I'm always going to remember. I remember I posted something 2 years ago where I said, your take, and it was like a Titanic ship sinking gif. I wish I could pull it up again, because I would retweet it right now, but I probably couldn't find it, even if I tried. So, yeah, we'll see what the Eagles do. They're definitely a team where you have no idea what's going to happen with them. And I'm not sure how I feel about their hiring either, so... That's pretty much from us. That is our award show of the year. Allie, do you got anything you want to vent about going into? Do you want to say anything about the Super Bowl? Because you can mention it real quickly since you won't be here next week with us.
Okay.
Here's your little moment to shine.
So, okay. First of
No
all,
Tom Brady slander.
She loves Tom.
that's
She
where I'm
likes
going.
Tom. She likes Tom Brady.
Okay.
So
there is nothing wrong with liking Tom Brady and respecting a good athlete. I don't care about the cheating. That I'm blaming that on Bill, okay? Like, he's the one that kind of coaches the team. So, like, in the end, to me, that's his decision. And even then, it's just speculation.
And the deflated balls still has no, legit proof to it either, which is dumb.
But yeah, I really want the Bucks to win, and it's not because I hate the Chiefs or anything, but the Bucks have not, they haven't been in a while. So I just think it's their turn, and everyone's rooting against them because of Tom Brady. But I just think that's kind of, I don't know. I just don't think that's the right way to look at that.
Yeah, so I'm surrounded by the Ravens community and the Cardinals community. So no one wants Tampa Bay because they either hate Tom Brady or they don't want Bruce Arians.
There's definitely a portion. So the whole thing with Bruce Arians in Arizona is very, very mixed. Like, for me, at first when he went to the Buccaneers, I kind of resented it and was really upset about it. But now that it's been a couple years, I kind of look back. I watched All or Nothing, the Cardinals season, not too long ago again, and kind of took a step back and was like, wow, Bruce Arians really was a great person and a great coach. And man, I miss him a lot. But he wanted to draft Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, and he said, we're going to need a trade up to do it, or somebody else is going to. And sure as shit, he was right. And then at that point, there began to be, some headbutting in the Cardinals front office. And then I don't think Bruce Arians actually wanted to retire. I think his health kind of had something to do with it, because at that time, he really wasn't feeling well. And even now, when I hear him talk, he just doesn't sound like he's doing good. So I wouldn't be shocked if he calls it after the Super Bowl if they win it, to be quite honest. And then maybe Byron Leftwich could take over. But that's a conversation for a different day. Excuse me. But a lot of people think Bruce Arians just wanted out of the Cardinals. And, well, I think that's part of it, because I think the headbutting was a real thing. If my GM and my owner refused to trade up for a guy like Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson when I was asking for it, I'd probably want out too.
Yeah, you'd probably be a little pissed. And then you see what they look like, you'd probably be like, yeah, fuck this.
Yeah. So I definitely don't blame him. I still love Bruce Arians. He's one of the greatest football guys ever. Minds too. He's coached some incredible players. He's coached some incredible teams. I still have a lot of respect and love for Bruce Arians, and I hope he can finally get his ring as a head coach.
I need to read his book.
Walk out. I couldn't tell you how.
The Quarterback Whisperer. I need to read it.
Yeah.
It's like how to build an elite NFL quarterback, because he's worked with Ben Roethlisberger. He's worked with Andrew Luck, and then he took
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, and then he took a middling guy like Carson Palmer and made Carson Palmer look fantastic, good enough to get into the Cardinals Ring of Honor. And now he's working with Tom Brady, and he's making a 40. I mean, Tom Brady is a unique case, because I think Tom Brady would be playing well anyway, probably. But he's made Tom Brady look like a fantastic guy who could still drop a ton of dimes at 43.
And yeah, that's another thing is this.
Hey, remember when you said it wouldn't work? Remember when you said the deep ball for Tom Brady wouldn't work? Did you see that game on Sunday?
I've never seen a 43-year-old quarterback do that. So, I mean, to be fair, I wasn't wrong. It's just Tom Brady's Tom Brady. And I guess that's kind of what happens when all you eat is a handful of almonds and avocado ice cream every single day. So.
And wear your Uggs to sleep.
Oh, yeah. Boy. So, anyways.
Wait, one more thing.
Sure.
I love his cringy videos, his cringy win videos. Okay, that is all.
Oh, when he's got the dub, great team win. He's got that, stereotypical white guy smile.
Yes.
I think my favorite one was the one they did as they were at the airport from Lambeau Field. It just had rap music on, and he looked kind of smug, and then it showed Gronkowski, and Gronkowski was hyped.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think my favorite tweet from last week was, wow, Tom Brady really went to a random team and said, hey, you guys want to go to the Super Bowl? Oh, shit. I can't believe I doubted them. I really thought it was an L. I thought him going to the Bucs, I'm like, that looks like a 10-6 team who gets eliminated in the divisional round. Sorry. Yeah, for freezing cold takes on my part. Damn. You're never seeing this again, people. 10 Super Bowls. It's never happening again. Patrick Mahomes, I understand, is in the league. But you know what?
He's not going to do it. I'll say it right now. Patrick Mahomes isn't going to do it.
Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning were in the league, and Aaron Rodgers has been to one Super Bowl. He's been to one and won one. And Peyton Manning went to 4, right? 4. He went to 2 with the Colts and 2 with the Broncos. He won his 2, right? 1 against the Bears and then 1 against the Panthers, but then he lost to the Seahawks, and then he lost to the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, yeah, the greatest of all times, man, you'll never see this again. I don't care how good Patrick Mahomes is, I cannot in my head feasibly see him going to 10 Super Bowls. Maybe 5, 4 or 5 at this rate.
And people are like, oh, well, he'll get as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady. Well, let me know when Patrick Mahomes gets to 4 and we can start talking.
Yeah, and the thing is I think there's optimism for Mahomes because he is 1 offsides penalty away from going to 3 in a row. right? One offsides penalty would have sent him instead of the Patriots
Tom Brady.
versus the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
One
And they
offsides
would have
call.
won that game.
Yeah, they would have won that game without that offsides call, 100%. Because it was an incomplete pass.
No, I meant the Super Bowl, too.
Oh, the Chiefs? Oh, yeah, they would have beat the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, maybe not, because that was the same year that they had a 54-51 game. And didn't the Rams win that 54-51 game?
I forgot about that. I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember who won that game.
So.
Yeah, Rams won 54-51. So, you never know. You really never know. So, and the thing is, it's in the past. So, there's some legitimacy to what people are saying for Mahomes, but I need to see it, right? Like, 10 Super Bowls, I tweeted it out like a few days ago. Tom Brady has made Super Bowls look like candy that everybody thinks you're a failure when you don't get so close to it. Like, someone tried telling me 2 weeks ago that I'm in misery as a Baltimore fan because we've lost in the divisional round twice and the wild card once. Well, first of all, we were not favorites against the Chargers. Yes, we were the home team, but we were not favorites against the Chargers that game. We had a rookie quarterback who couldn't throw the ball. No offense to him. He really couldn't throw the ball his rookie season. Right? And then this year, we were underdogs to the Bills. We were supposed to lose. And guess what? We lost. The only time I was ever disappointed by a Baltimore's postseason loss was the Billy Cundiff kick.
Mm-hmm. That got brought up at my work today, actually.
Yeah, and then last year's loss. We shouldn't have lost to Tennessee. But we did. Right? Those were the only two losses where I'm like, wow, I'm in misery. Every other time we've ever lost in the postseason, I'm like, yeah, we weren't supposed to win this game, but we were in it. We fought. You know, it's fine. Like, even the Bills game, like, we fought. That should have been a 10-10 game at the end of it. It probably would have gone into overtime. But pick six, Lamar concussion, over. Tom Brady is incredible. There should be no slander on him anymore. And you know what's hilarious is if he wins this ring next week, and we'll talk about this more next week, if you still say Tom Brady is bad, you are one of three people. You're trolling.
And you're just a hater at this point.
Well, I was going to say you're trolling, right? Just to mess with someone. You're an actual hater, or you're ignorant. It's one of the three, right? You are one of the three. And you could pull up all these stats that you want to, but it will never trump the 7 Super Bowl stat, ever. Or just appearing in 10. You'll never trump that. Any stat you ever bring up against Tom Brady, it'll never trump it. Not even close. Ooh, but it's a team win. All right, let's look at the MVPs. Let's look at the clutch drives. Let's look at how many times he has beaten elite defenses to get where he needs to go. Let's look at the Legion of Boom Super Bowl. Malcolm Butler interception. Yeah, but they wouldn't have been in that position if Tom Brady hadn't led a game-winning drive before that when it was 21-24. I could go on and on and on, dude. The most miraculous comeback in Super Bowl history. The fact that he won one of the lowest scoring games in Super Bowl history, 13-3. Like, I could go on, right? He's been there and done it all. So, anything else, Allie, besides Tom Brady?
No, that's it. Go Bucks.
All right, so we know what shoe she's rooting for this week. We'll tell you who we're rooting for this next week and who we're picking next week. I've kind of made my decision already, but I might switch it because, shit, I don't really know, dude. Like, I think I know who the better team is, but does that mean they win? I don't know. It'll be a fun discussion to have next week. So thank you so much, Allie, for coming on. You can follow her at AllieKitty on Twitter. You can follow Pardue at HC_Pardue, and you can follow me at HCJC Sanders. Is there anything else from us?
I got nothing.
Alrighty,
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for coming on again. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next week for the Super Bowl of GOAT versus potential GOAT.